I need to warn you, don't watch this alone. What you're about to hear isn't just a story about an abandoned hospital. It's about a place that's still alive, with the dead. Welcome to Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Built in 1910, right in the heart of Louisville, Kentucky, Waverly Hills was a fortress against an invisible enemy, tuberculosis, in the early 20th century. They called it the White Plague, a relentless disease that swept through the country with no cure in sight. It was a one-way ticket for many. Thousands of patients flooded its wards, their hopes fading with each passing day. The doctors were helpless, throwing everything they had at the disease, but death was almost always the final outcome. The official records say over 6,000 souls perished within these walls. But if you listen to the whispers of the locals, the true number could be staggering, maybe even 10 times that. Can you imagine the sheer scale of loss? The hospital had a grim secret, a way to handle the overwhelming number of deaths without alarming the living patients. Families weren't allowed to see their loved ones one last time. Instead, the bodies were taken away through a hidden passage, a 500-foot-long tunnel carved into the hill. The nurses called it the Tunnel of Shadows, but it's better known today as the Death Tunnel. This dark, sloping passage was the final journey for thousands, a conveyor belt of the dead, hidden from sight. But there were even darker stories. Some patients, who were supposedly recovering and perfectly healthy, were said to have simply vanished from the hospital, never to be seen again. They checked in, but they never checked out. What happened to them remains one of Waverly's most unsettling mysteries. As the death toll climbed, so did the strange occurrences. The staff started reporting things they couldn't explain. They'd hear the faint sounds of children coughing in rooms that had been empty for weeks. Unseen footsteps would echo down deserted hallways, following them in the dead of night. Lights would flicker violently for no reason, and heavy doors would slam shut with a deafening boom, even when there was no wind, no draft, no one there to push them. The fear was palpable. One story that spread like wildfire was about patients who died staring into mirrors. Their bodies would later disappear from their beds, their last reflection captured in the glass of face, twisted in a silent, eternal scream. Of all the tales, perhaps the most famous and heartbreaking is that of the nurse in room 502. The 5th floor was where the mentally ill TB patients were kept, and the weight of all that suffering became too much for one nurse to bear. Overwhelmed by the hopelessness and despair, she reportedly took her own life right there in room 502. To this day, people who visit the 5th floor claim to see her. They say her spirit still wanders the halls, a lonely figure stopping at empty beds, peering into dark rooms, and whispering for help that will never come. Visitors often report a sudden, crushing feeling of sadness, intense dizziness, or the unnerving sensation of being watched by something just beyond their vision. It's as if her sorrow has seeped into the very walls. By the 1940s, the death tunnel had become a legend in its own right, steeped in superstition. The staff had a chilling belief. If a body being transported through the tunnel accidentally touched the floor, its spirit would be trapped. The energy of that patient would linger, unable to move, unable, restless, and forever bound to the hospital grounds. This belief has fueled paranormal investigations for decades. Teams have flocked to Waverly, armed with cameras and audio recorders, hoping to capture proof of the afterlife. And what they've found is terrifying. They've recorded disembodied whispers in languages no one recognizes. They've captured audio of footsteps chasing them down empty corridors. Investigators have felt icy cold hands brushing against their shoulders in pitch-black rooms, and have had their equipment fully charged batteries, brand new cameras glitch, malfunction, or die completely the moment they step into certain hotspots. Room 502 is notorious for this. It's as if the spirits don't want to be documented. After the discovery of antibiotics finally provided a cure for tuberculosis, Waverly Hills was no longer needed as a sanatorium. It briefly served as a geriatric facility before closing its doors for good in 1981. But just because the building was empty didn't mean it was quiet. The people who live nearby will tell you, the hospital never really shut down. They say it breathes in the night. Lights are seen flickering in the windows, even though the building has had no power for decades. On still, windless nights, the walls themselves seem to sigh and groan, as if the building is remembering all the pain it witnessed. And for those brave or foolish enough to walk its decaying hallways at night, they report something far more disturbing than just strange noises. They see shadows that dart and move with a clear sense of purpose. These aren't just tricks of the light. They appear to be figures moving from room to room, watching from the ends of long corridors. It's as if the hospital itself is a living entity, and the thousands of souls who died there are now its permanent residents. Waverly Hills Sanatorium is more than just an abandoned building. It's a monument to suffering, a place where the past refuses to die. The question isn't whether it's haunted. The question is, who or what is still walking its halls? Thanks for joining me on this journey into one of America's most haunted locations. If you found this story as chilling as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown. Stay safe out there. Decades have passed since the doors of Waverly Hills Sanatorium officially closed, but the echoes of its tragic past continued to claim victims. Visitors today speak of chilling, unexplainable events. They report hearing the faint laughter of children echoing through deserted hallways, a sound that quickly fades when they try to find its source. Many swear they've seen shadow figures darting down the long, dark corridors, vanishing into thin air just as they get close. It's as if the spirits are playing a never-ending game of hide-and-seek. One of the most infamous spots in the sanatorium is room 502. Those who dare to step inside often describe an immediate, bone-chilling cold. They feel an unseen hand pressed firmly against their chest, a heavy, suffocating pressure that's followed by an overwhelming sensation of being pulled. Pulled toward what? Toward the dreaded death tunnel, the chute once used to discreetly transport the bodies of the deceased out of sight. It's a terrifying force, an invisible undertow, dragging them toward the darkness. Paranormal researchers and ghost hunters have documented a wealth of bizarre phenomena within these decaying walls. Electronic devices, from cameras to audio recorders, mysteriously fail in certain wards, their batteries draining in an instant for no apparent reason. People have left the building with unexplained scratches appearing on their skin, thin red lines that look like they were drawn by unseen fingernails. Objects are said to move on their own, pushed, thrown, or slid across surfaces as if guided by invisible hands. Legend has it that the spirit of a nurse who took her own life within the hospital still lingers, tormented and angry. Some say she's the one responsible for the oppressive atmosphere, ensuring that no one leaves Waverly Hills without carrying a piece of its fear with them. They claim the death tunnel itself has a voice, whispering the names of people who have yet to arrive. A chilling premonition of future visitors, drawn to the sanatorium's dark allure. The stories from those who have walked these halls are as numerous as they are terrifying. In one widely reported incident, a man was taking photographs in the grand, empty main hall. When he later reviewed the pictures, he was horrified. In a single frame, hundreds of faint ghostly faces could be seen, all staring directly at the camera with hollow eyes. He was completely alone when he took the shot. Who were they? Were they the forgotten patients? Their images forever burned into the fabric of the building. Another visitor shared an equally harrowing experience. As he was climbing the main staircase to the upper floors, he felt something brush past him from behind. It was a swift, cold presence, but it was solid enough to leave its mark. When he looked down, he saw deep, angry scratches running down his arm, bleeding through his shirt. There was no one else on the stairs. Nothing was there. It was as if the very air had reached out and attacked him. These tales suggest that Waverly Hills is more than just a haunted building. Some theorists believe it's a place that actively collects energy. It doesn't just house spirits. It feeds on the fear, the curiosity, and the life force of the living, trapping that energy within its decaying walls. The dead here are restless, forever bound to the place where they suffered. The ghostly nurses are said to still make their rounds, watching over the empty beds with eternal vigilance. At night, some insist the entire hospital hums. It's a low vibrational sound, a symphony composed of the cries of the forgotten, the whispers of the departed, and the sorrow that has soaked into the very foundation of the building. Tens of thousands of souls perished here, their final moments filled with pain and despair. And now, millions of unseen eyes watch silently from behind the peeling paint of the walls, from the dark corners of the ceilings, and from the deep, unending blackness of the death tunnel. The building waits. It's always waiting. Patiently, silently, it waits for the next curious soul to wander inside, unaware that they might become the next story, the next whisper, the next shadow seen darting down a long dark hall. Subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a nightmare.